Yes, that's right. So here live for Joyrider TV, back with some more Q&A where I'm going to be tackling your most adventurous catamaran sailing questions. Yes, in this edition of the live Q&A, we're going to be talking about our main topic, which is basically where on the catamaran is it optimal to sit. Yes. And then that is going to carry through to where is it optimal on the catamaran to trapeze. Yes, I think so. This is what we broadly would be labeling trim. The other key item in today's Q&A is going to be the man overboard procedure. What is the best practice to get somebody who's fallen off the boat back onto the boat? How do we get back to them, and how do we best pick them up? Okay, but we're going to start off by looking at the trim. Where do we sit on the boat? What are we trying to achieve? And what are our visual clues to tell us that, yes, we are in the right place on the boat? Okay, so this question has been put forward by Hussein in Egypt, who sails a Hobie 16, but we are going to be tackling this, as you may be able to guess, on a variety or pretty much every style of catamaran hull that is out there. And Hussein is straight into the live chat with a super sticker. Thanks very much for kicking off the super stickers this evening, or whatever time of day it is around the world. The super stickers, of course, keeping the Q&A ad-free. All right, so kicking off with the main concept of trim on the catamaran. What we're trying to do with the trim is, if these are the leeward hulls, so wind coming from the top, so that would be this hull, what we're looking to do is to have the leeward hull, so I'm going to sneeze, the leeward hull, sorry, as parallel, sorry, is parallel the word? Yeah, as parallel with the horizon as possible. So we want the boat cutting through really straight. So on an asymmetric hulled boat, we'd want it sitting in the water like this. A lot of boats will actually have a hull stripe on the inside, which is a really great indicator of where you want your bow to sit, especially on the upwind point of sail. So just to clarify, we're just tackling upwind to start with. So this would be on something like a Dart 18. If we're seeing too much of the curve of the bow, so in fact, there's the section where the front edge of the bow meets the bottom of the bow, and there's just this most prominently curved section of the bow. That's the part of the boat that we're trying to get cutting through. Okay, how else would we know? So this is going to be a general theme throughout the boats. The main thing that we're looking for on the upwind with in regards to trim is how do we know if we're too far back? Let's just say, as a rule, we're trying to get as far forwards as possible at all times. But how do we know if we're too far back? The first thing would be we'd look at the bow, because it is much easier to look at the bow, because that is kind of like towards where we are looking, because we're going forwards. But what we can also look for, or even listen for, especially in the light winds, is we're listening for noise coming from the back of the boat. And if we've got noise coming from the back of the boat, what this would mean is we're digging the back of the boat in too much, and we're putting like the rudder stocks into the water, whereas the rudder stock, like this, should be clear of the water at all times. So if the rudder stock is in the water, we're going to have all sorts of noise coming from the back, loads of drag, not very efficient. So we're trying to have that out of the water. So that is a general theme between all of the boats. With the Hobie 16 or 14 or similar shaped boats, yeah, a little bit more ambiguous to describe where we want the water coming to on the bow, but you basically want about this much above the water showing. The other way you can gauge it is look at your sidebar and look how that lines up at the actual water, assuming it's flat water at this stage. And we want the sidebar to be parallel with the horizon. That means we're not bow down. If we go bow down on the upwind leg, we're going to be bringing the rig forwards, which is going to prevent us from being able to point very close to the wind. We're also going to be lifting the rudders out of the water, which means especially on a boat like a Hobie 16, which doesn't have very much in the water. Here's our rudder. So if the rudder's getting taken out of the water, it means we're losing quite a lot of what we're getting lift and leeway prevention on the upwind leg. So we definitely want to have the boat flat so that we're not dragging the rudder stock through the water, but we've got a good amount of rudder in, because that is going to help us to sail closer to the wind and yeah, and get more lift as we start moving faster. And that lift is going to translate into being able to sail closer to the wind and with more speed. Okay, and then, all right, so moving down with a boat like a Tiger, this is far easier to define. In fact, I've just completed a Tiger training week at Wild Wind Sailing Holidays here in Greece. 5 Tigers, 10 sailors, amazing week, great conditions, largely, let's be honest, largely great conditions. And we did cover a huge amount about sailing these boats. So on the Tiger or something similar, where we've got quite a straight bow. So if we exaggerate the bow here, so we've got quite a straight bow, and then we've got quite a straight bottom of the hull coming up to meet the bow. So this is the deck just here. It's not a very good picture. And then